I love making homemade kimchi. It's especially satisfying when you make it out of homegrown items. But it's so early in the season. Early April, not a lot growing. Or is there?
There are a lot of dandelions growing in my yard. The entire dandelion plant is edible. There's also some hairy bittercress, which is also known as shotweed. The stems, leaves, and flowers are edible on hairy bittercress. I also found some wood violet. The flowers and leaves are edible here. I'm not going to take a lot of flowers, but they'll add a nice little pop of color and nice texture to my kimchi. There are so many dandelions in my yard. The ones that I don't mind leaving where they are, I will just pick the greens off of. The others I will just dig out. So, hey, win-win. The weed gets out of its spot where it shouldn't be, and I get yummy kimchi. I also have a narrow leaf plantain here, which is another basically bitter green, heading into the backyard. Hiding behind my pots here is some common self-heal, also called all-heal. The leaves are both edible and medicinal. I'm barely halfway through my yard, but I already have a big pile of greens. So I think I will go take them inside to start washing them off and get them soaking, because there's a lot of dirt and stuff that's going to need to come off. A lot of this time in this process is going to washing and soaking your materials. I'll take a few stalks of rhubarb, which makes wonderful kimchi, but doesn't have a lot of growth, so just 3 stalks. Got some garlic chives here, which will add a nice pop of garlic into the kimchi. Garlic is a major ingredient in kimchi, at least most kimchi recipes. And let's see what other weeds I can find over here. Got some dead nettle. I'll just take a few florets because it's really early in the season and I want to leave the flowers, as I've said before. But it's a really pretty little leaf. And up here, got some red-stemmed filaree that is almost like a tiny fern, and it will add a very nice texture as well. Our next stop is this pretty little daisy. Both the flowers and greens are edible. I'm only going to take the greens today. And let's take a look at my garden beds. I've got some leeks here that overwintered, and the leeks will be a great addition to the kimchi as well. And I want them out of the way because I grew them before I really knew much about growing leeks. So I want to pull them out and make room for growing other things. Cutting off the roots, and I'll just let the roots land and be mulched. Same with the top leaves, and on in. Yep, chop. And if you pull off the outside leaf, you'll get most of the dirt on the outer skin. That saves you some cleanup time too. And yep, skin the outside, chop the top, just let it drop. Happy little chive. It already has a flower. Chive flowers are so much fun. And this chive, hi Kona, are you investigating? This is not for you. Alright, let's get to washing. I'm spraying everything down with a mixture of 50% white distilled vinegar, 50% water to kill any bacteria or bugs that might have come in there. And then I'm going to rinse things off and chop all of the pieces that I'm not going to be salting. That's a step you'll see later. Here we're chopping up the rhubarb. How big or small you make it is really a personal preference. I like most of my kimchi pieces to be kind of bite-sized and smallish. Also, I don't have very many rhubarb, so I'm chopping these into fairly small pieces. Next up are the leeks. Basically, same treatment as the rhubarb. Chop it up and toss it into a bowl to wait until it gets mixed in with everything at the end. And now back to the greens that have been soaking. You're going to soak and rinse as many times as it takes to get these greens clean. Now, they might be very dirty. They might be surprisingly clean for something that you pulled out of your backyard, but just keep going until you don't see little bits of dirt and other gunk when you cover them with water. If your water is clean after you rinse, then you know that you're there.
Well, I screwed up. I made this beautiful kimchi and thought I filmed it, and it turns out I missed all of that entire process. So we're gonna do some do-over kimchi, and you'll see next is gonna look a little different than what I harvested, but it is basically the same ingredients. So here we go. All right, dandelions, shotweed. Oh, common self-heal. Currently getting rinsed, and as you can see, got some dirtiness to deal with. Once we finish getting this cleaned up, I will show you how I process it. But not salted my greens here. So here's a little tip. As long as your greens are washed and salted and chopped, you don't have to be too picky about the order. Right now I'm just plucking the nice leaves off of this common self-heal, which is what we are going to add to our kimchi. This is red-stemmed filaree. It's probably small enough that it doesn't actually need much chopping, but I like small pieces in my kimchi. And here's where we get a little serious. Alright, got this shotweed here. I don't want any of the roots. I don't want any of the stuff that's down at the bottom. I do want the nice tender greens, and I also want the stems, flowers, and seeds. I think they taste kind of like celery myself. So what I'm going to do here is just cut most of that off. Give these a little cut. Toss the rest into my compost bowl, which is where I'm collecting food scraps. I will collect for later. So, nice little greens. And just cut that big root and bit of shoulder at the bottom there off. And not sure where you are, you might grass. Anyway. How small you cut it, how finely you chop, really is a personal choice. Start cutting off the root, taking off any discolored leaves that I don't want to use. Just give these a check over here. They look generally fine. Cut them up. I'm doing a very rough chop because once I salt them, they will be much, much smaller. And let's just take some of the outer skin and any fibrous roots off of. There's the dandelion root here. And these are good. This little root is going to add some nice texture to our kimchi. Got lots of hairy roots on here. So again, put that off for a moment. Set it aside. What are you? Violet. Nice cute little violet leaves, heart-shaped leaves. I think dandelion root actually just tastes like dandelion. Yeah, we're a little dirty, so I'm going to rinse these a bit more once I get them chopped up. Okay. Now, the roots. Definitely don't want these little fibrous roots here. Not sure if the skin is a problem. I guess we'll discover together. these guys ready. Got a little daisy leaf. I'm not going to bother cutting that up. Violet leaves, again, they're so tiny. Honestly, they're just really cute. Kind of little heart-shaped leaves. Just toss those guys in. Continue until done. Got some nice long plantain leaves here. Chop them here. Again, very rough chop. Violet flower, because why not? Now this is going to go get another rinse.
After all that, cutting up the onion chives is easy. Just going to give them a nice coarse chop. Not going to worry about getting them particularly small. These are going to be salted and they will shrink considerably. If your chives has flowers, that's great. Chive flowers are totally edible and good for you. Just toss them on in with everything else. Once everything is clean and chopped, now it's time to add a bunch of kosher salt. The kosher salt will dehydrate, will draw the water out of the leaves, and will soften everything. So make sure you are generous with salt. Work it in with your hands, and make sure the salt gets all the way through. What you're going to do is you're going to leave the salt for about half an hour. Then you're going to drain it, and then drain the water out, and let it sit for another half hour. Continue this until you have had your greens sitting salted for an hour and a half to 2 hours. You can let it go longer if you like, but hour and a half to 2 hours seems to be the standard. Ingredients: 1 to 3 tablespoons of green chili powder, 1 to 3 tablespoons of fish oil, as much garlic as you feel like putting in. I put in about 2 tablespoons here. I'm using some ginger turmeric paste, but feel free to just use ginger. And a pinch of sugar. Then stir everything around, get it all mixed together. This is your kimchi paste. Now that your greens are rinsed and drained, now we need to squeeze all the water out. Rinse off any remaining salt that you might see or feel there, and squeeze it as hard as you can. You can see all the water that's coming out of just this handful. Soon as one handful is squeezed out, move on to the next. Continue until the greens are all squeezed. And then add the squeezed out greens into the bowl with your chili paste and work them around so that the chili paste covers every single bit of those greens. At this point, make sure that your other ingredients are in there too, so anything like rhubarb, dandelion root, or onion, anything else you feel like adding, work that in with all of it. Get that chili paste all over every bit of your kimchi. I strongly recommend wearing some gloves here because Korean chili powder will stain, and if you have sensitive skin, you might also feel kind of uncomfortable burning on your hands. So, gloves. And congratulations, you have made kimchi. The only problem is it is very young kimchi and not fermented. Now, if you want to, you can eat it right now. Just treat it like a salad, treat it like you would any kimchi. Put it on a sandwich, whatever. In this case, I'm going to ferment it a bit. So find a non-reactive container like this glass one I'm using and stuff the kimchi in there as tight as you can because you want to get it all in there. You want to get any air bubbles out. You want to make sure that all of the kimchi pieces are under the kimchi liquid. Now you probably want to have a weight or something to make sure that the plant matter stays down under the kimchi liquid and to keep everything kind of together. And there we go. We have achieved kimchi. I like to leave my kimchi for a few days. This is the kimchi that I made today, and here is the original batch of kimchi that has been fermenting for about 4 or 5 days now. You can see it's in a different container. This is a special fermentation container that I just bought off of Amazon. It has this nice little press there in the middle of things that you can use to both keep the kimchi down and press out any air bubbles that arise during the fermentation process.
Let's see how it tastes. It's only a few hours old. It smells kind of spicy and oniony, as expected. Make sure I get some of the shotweed there. A lot more subtle flavors going on than I expected. There was so much onion chive in here, I kind of expected it to be just pow, onion in your face. But I'm getting a bunch of different flavors here, especially that Korean chili paste. This is going to be really amazing after it's fermented for a few days. All right, let's try the 5-day-old kimchi. So, similar ingredients here, though this one has rhubarb, but slightly different proportions. I think I used a bit less onion chive proportionally, and since this has been fermenting for about 5 days, there's more of a sour smell with that fermentation. Also, I didn't salt these onion chives, so that might also change the flavor a little bit too. Here goes. Oh yeah. I generally like my kimchi a bit more aged, so that helps this, but fermentation really gives kimchi a flavor that is almost indescribable. People talk about it as kind of sour and funky, and beyond that, I mean, this could be any other specialty kimchi. I didn't tell people that I made this mostly of dandelion leaves and other weeds, but they wouldn't know, and it is tasty. I'll probably mix the newer kimchi with this older kimchi because I've got this nice box with the lid to press it down, and that's really handy. Also, you can see what's going on here. If you do this and your kimchi seems a bit dry, like this one is, then you're going to want to add a little bit of water to moisten it up and make sure that the kimchi is actually underwater, and you want to press it down, maybe add a weight or something in there. Anyway, that was this episode of Backyard Kimchi. I will be trying to make a new batch of kimchi every month or two. I will be trying out new methods, new techniques, and new ingredients. So thanks for joining me here. I'm Diana. My channel is Make Mend Grow, and I will see you next time. Have a good one.